Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York shimmered with warm golden lights, as if the world had gathered to celebrate. A 29-year-old ambitious architect, Maya Johnson, rushed through the marble hallway, her high heels clicking hurriedly. The turquoise evening gown clung to her figure and sparkled under the lights, but it felt more like a hindrance at this moment. She clutched the hem tightly, trying not to trip, repeating a mantra in her mind. I can't be late. I must not be late. Today was Aisha's wedding. Her college best friend and Maya were the maids of honor. But fate, as usual, seemed to have other plans for her. The day had gone awry from the start. A traffic jam in Manhattan trapped her taxi in an ocean of vehicles. Then, as she stepped out in front of the hotel, a delivery truck nearly ran over her foot, causing her to drop her small clutch containing her phone and lipstick. Now, the elevator leading to the banquet hall was packed with elegantly dressed guests, forcing her to sprint up 3 flights of stairs in those cursed heels. Sweat beaded on her forehead as Maya muttered, "If I survive today, I swear I'll never wear heels again." She was almost there. Soft music and cheerful chatter drifted from the banquet hall, signaling that the ceremony was about to begin. Maya thought just a few more steps, her heart pounding from the pressure. But just then, she didn't watch where she was going. A sudden, hard collision sent her stumbling. Her bouquet flew from her hands, and the small clutch fell to the marble floor with a sharp clack. Maya lost her balance, her shoes slipping, and she braced for a humiliating crash onto the hotel's expensive carpet. But the fall never came. 2 strong arms suddenly wrapped around her waist, holding her steady. A masculine scent, subtle yet distinct, filled her senses. A blend of wood and mint. For a moment, Maya forgot to breathe. She looked up, and her deep brown eyes instantly met an intense blue gaze, sharp and ocean deep. The man before her, neatly combed black hair and a perfectly tailored dark gray suit, looked like he'd stepped out of a luxury fashion magazine. He smiled, a half smile that was both charming and teasing. "Are you okay, or was this your plan to impress all the guests?" Maya blinked, her mind still catching up to what had just happened. She gently pushed his hands away, trying to regain composure, though her voice still trembled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm late." She glanced down at the bouquet lying on the floor, then back at him, hoping she hadn't just crashed into someone important. "I hope I didn't hurt you," he chuckled, a deep, warm sound that made Maya's heart skip a beat. "No injury, but I could sue you for damaging the hotel's carpet." He bent down, picked up the bouquet and clutch, and handed them to her elegantly. "You're a bridesmaid, right? You may be running away from duty." Maya frowned, taking the items from him. "I'm not running away, just trying to make it on time. And thank you, but I need to go now." She turned to hurry off, but his voice made her pause again. "Be careful. I don't know if the hotel's insured for high-heel marathons." His tone was slightly teasing, but something warm in it too, like he genuinely cared. Maya glanced back, about to respond cleverly, but his eyes made her forget what she would say. She gave a quick nod and rushed toward the banquet hall, trying not to look back. But even in her haste, the image of that man, his smile, his eyes, the way he had held her, clung to her mind like a melody she couldn't shake. When Maya finally slipped into the bridesmaid lineup, she sighed in relief. The ceremony had begun, and Aisha, radiant in her white gown, was glaring at her with a look that screamed, "You are so dead after this." Maya gave her an apologetic smile, but her mind was a mess. She took her position, trying to focus on the officiant's speech. But something compelled her to look up, and then she saw him. The man from the hallway was now seated among the groomsmen, just a few feet away. He wore that same gray suit with a dark blue silk tie that opened his eyes. He was looking at her, not with idle curiosity, but with a focused gaze, as if he were trying to read her entire story through every movement. Maya felt her cheeks burn. She quickly turned away, whispering to herself, "Don't look back. Don't embarrass yourself further." But she couldn't resist sneaking another glance. And this time, he smiled, a subtle smile, as if he knew exactly what she was thinking. Maya shook her head, trying to brush off the strange flutter in her chest. She whispered to the bridesmaid beside her, an old friend from architecture school named Lena, the man sitting with the groomsmen, the one in the gray suit. "Who is he?" Lena tilted her head, following Maya's line of sight. "Oh, that's Ethan Caldwell. Haven't you heard of him? CEO of Caldwell Ventures, one of the biggest fintech companies in the country. They say he can shake Wall Street with a single phone call." She lowered her voice, adding, "And he's famously private. No scandals, no love life, just business. Why are you asking? Don't tell me you just ran into him out there." Maya swallowed, feeling like she'd just been hit with a bucket of ice water. "Yeah, might have been him," she muttered, trying to keep her voice even. Lena giggled, but Maya didn't feel like laughing. She had just collided with a billionaire, and worse, he had seen her at her most disheveled. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Focus, Maya. Just get through this ceremony. Don't cause any more trouble." But when she opened her eyes, Ethan was still looking at her, and that look said this wouldn't be the last time they met. A shiver ran down Maya's spine, excitement and danger. She knew the night had only begun, and wasn't sure she was ready for what was coming next. The banquet hall of the Waldorf Astoria shimmered like a miniature universe, with crystal chandeliers floating from the ceiling and warm golden light reflecting off champagne glasses. Soft jazz music flowed through the air, blending with the lively hum of conversation and laughter from the guests. Still slightly dazed from the hallway collision, Maya Johnson tried to fully step into her role as maid of honor. She weaved through the crowd, checking if Aisha, the bride, needed anything while trying not to spill anything in her hands. But no matter how hard she tried, Ethan Caldwell's gaze felt like a magnetic pull, dragging her away from all coherent thought. Maya sensed him before she even saw him. It was a strange sensation, as if the air around her grew denser whenever he was near. She was standing near the reception table, adjusting some napkins into place, when she instinctively looked up. Ethan was seated not far away, among the groomsmen, a glass of red wine in hand. He wasn't engaging in the lively conversation around him. Instead, his piercing blue eyes were locked on her, unapologetically. It wasn't the casual glance of a stranger, but the stare of someone trying to solve a mystery. Maya felt her heart beat faster. She quickly turned away, pretending to busy herself with a glass on the table, but her cheeks were already flushed. "Come on, Maya. Focus," she told herself, trying to push away the flutter in her chest. She wasn't the kind of woman to be swept up by a single look, especially not one from a billionaire like Ethan Caldwell. She had a job and dreams, and didn't have time for flirtatious nonsense. But when she risked another glance, Ethan was still looking, and this time, he raised an eyebrow slightly, as if daring her to look back. She decided to ignore him. Maya walked over to Aisha, radiant in her wedding gown, chatting with guests. "You okay?" Maya whispered, adjusting the edge of Aisha's veil. "Is everything how you wanted it?" Aisha beamed, gripping her hand. "Everything's perfect, except that you almost missed the ceremony. But I forgive you because you look stunning." She tilted her head, giving Maya a mischievous look. "By the way, I saw you glancing at someone over there with the groomsmen. What's going on?" Maya frowned, trying to keep her expression neutral. Nothing. I just accidentally ran into someone in the hallway. Turns out he's Ethan Caldwell. You know who he is, right? Aisha raised her eyebrows, clearly intrigued. Ethan Caldwell? Oh, Maya, you're not serious. He's Kevin's close friend, the groom. He's a tech billionaire, but so private that no one knows anything about him except that he's wealthy and incredibly guarded. How did you run into him? Maya recounted the hallway collision, carefully omitting the part where he caught her and the distracting scent of his cologne. Aisha laughed, but her eyes lit up. Listen, if Ethan Caldwell's paying attention to you, that's not a small thing. He's not the type to show interest lightly. Oh, stop it, Aisha. Maya rolled her eyes. He probably just thought I was a clumsy distraction. I don't have time for this kind of thing. But even as she said it, her eyes drifted back toward Ethan. He was now rising, heading toward the bar, and walking confidently, making it seem like the entire room belonged to him. She decided to do something, anything, to keep from getting pulled into his orbit. Maya went to the drink table to grab a lemonade to clear her head. But just as she reached for a glass, a clumsy moment caused her to bump into a tray of wine held by a passing waiter. Everything seemed to slow down. The wine glass tilted, the deep red liquid arced through the air, and before she could react, it splashed directly onto the gray suit of the man standing beside her. Maya looked up in horror and locked eyes with Ethan Caldwell. Oh no, 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 Maya gasped, covering her mouth. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Let me get a napkin. She panicked, staring at the spreading stain on his suit, ruining its perfect elegance. Ethan looked down at the stain, then back at her, with no trace of anger. Instead, a slow, almost amused smile formed on his lips. You do have a talent for making things interesting. He slipped off his jacket, folding it neatly over his arm, revealing a crisp white shirt that clung to his tall, broad frame. Don't worry, it's just a stain. But you owe me a drink to make up for it. Maya blinked, unsure whether he was serious or teasing. A drink? Are you sure? Because I just ruined a suit that cost more than my rent. Ethan laughed. A rich, deep sound that drew a few glances from nearby guests. I don't care about the suit, but I care about getting to know the woman who nearly knocked me over in the hallway and destroyed my fashion moment. He gestured toward the bar. Come on, my treat. You choose. Maya hesitated. Every rational thought in her screamed that this was a bad idea. Ethan Caldwell wasn't just some stranger, a billionaire living in a world miles above hers. But there was something in his voice, in how he looked at her without judgment, that made her nod before she could stop herself. All right, but I'm warning you, I don't drink any of that expensive stuff. They walked to the bar, where the dim lighting and soft music created a more intimate atmosphere. Maya climbed onto a high stool, trying to appear casual, while Ethan stood beside her and ordered 2 mojito cocktails. You'd prefer something fresh? He said, sliding the glass toward her. Maya took a sip, the minty coolness easing her nerves. Not bad. But let me ask, what's a guy like you doing here at a chaotic wedding like this? I thought billionaires only showed up at art auctions or something. Ethan smiled, swirling the wine in his glass. I'm here for Kevin, the groom. We've known each other since college when I was just a kid with a few crazy ideas. He's one of the few people I genuinely trust. He looked at her, eyes probing deeper. And you? Maid of honor. But you looked like you were running a marathon to get here. Maya chuckled, shaking her head. Aisha's my best friend. We studied architecture together at Columbia. I promised I'd ensure everything went perfectly for her, but punctuality isn't my strength. She paused, then added, I'm an architect, and I love what I do. It lets me create spaces that make people feel like they belong. But today, I was trying not to mess everything up. Ethan tilted his head as if weighing every word. An architect. That's interesting. You seem passionate, but also like someone who doesn't like being boxed in. Am I right? Maya raised an eyebrow, surprised by his insight. Do you analyze people like this all the time? Or only when they spill wine on you? Only when they make me curious, Ethan replied, his eyes gleaming. And you, Maya, are very curious indeed. She felt her cheeks warm when he said her name, as if he'd known her for years. The air between them grew heavier, charged with unspoken things. Maya took another sip of her mojito, trying to steady herself. All right, you win this round. But I should get back to Aisha. A maid of honor can't disappear for too long. Ethan nodded, but just before she left, he said, You know, Maya, I have a feeling we'll meet again. And next time, I hope there's no spilled wine. Maya smiled, a smile she couldn't hold back. No promises, Mr. Caldwell. She turned away, walking back into the crowd, but her heart pounded harder than ever. Ethan Caldwell wasn't just a man she'd accidentally run into. He was a question, a challenge, and maybe something more dangerous. The banquet hall of the Waldorf Astoria was now bathed in soft golden light as the band shifted into a slow ballad, inviting couples onto the dance floor. Evening gowns floated past one another, forming a vivid tapestry of color and motion. Maya Johnson stood at the crowd's edge, holding a half-finished mojito, trying to blend into the festive atmosphere. But her mind was still tangled from the brief conversation at the bar with Ethan Caldwell. His words, "You're someone worth being curious about," replayed in her head like an endless, thrilling, and troubling melody. She glanced toward Aisha, the bride, glowing in Kevin's arms on the dance floor. They looked as though they were made for each other, and Maya felt a flicker of envy mixed with genuine happiness. She had never truly believed in love at first sight, not because she didn't want to, but because her life, filled with long days at the architecture firm and dreams of designing community spaces, left little room for whimsy. And yet, Ethan Caldwell, with his sharp blue eyes and half-smile, was making her question herself. Maya, are you planning to stand here all night? Lena, her fellow bridesmaid, appeared beside her with a champagne flute. Go dance. Can't you see how much fun everyone's having? Maya gave a weak smile and shook her head. I'm fine. I need a minute to breathe. Today's been a bit crazy. She didn't mention Ethan, but Lena tilted her head with her usual intuition. Crazy. Or is it because the billionaire's been looking at you like you're the last dessert on the table? Lena winked, nodding toward the dance floor. Maya turned, and her heart skipped a beat. Ethan was standing at the edge of the floor, one hand in his pocket, effortlessly composed yet radiating power. He wasn't looking at her at that moment. He was engaged in conversation with an older guest, but the way he tilted his head, as if sensing her gaze, sent a chill down her spine. Lena, don't read too much into it, Maya said, keeping her voice steady. He's just being polite. Polite? Lena laughed. Maya, he's looking at you like he's about to ask you to dance. Or more. Don't play innocent. Maya shot her a glare, but she felt a presence behind her before responding. A warm, familiar voice spoke, making her startle slightly. Ms. Johnson, may I have this dance? She turned, and there he was, Ethan Caldwell, closer than she'd expected. The chandelier's light shimmered across his face, highlighting his sharp features and ocean blue eyes. He extended a hand, palm open, with a confident and gentle smile. Maya felt her throat go dry. She wanted to decline, to flee from the strange feeling rising in her chest. But his gaze held her there, as if he already knew she wouldn't say no. "Just one dance," Ethan added, his voice lower now, almost a whisper. "I promise not to spill any more wine." Maya laughed despite herself. His smile had a way of dismantling her defenses. "All right, Mr. Caldwell," she said, setting her mojito on the table and placing her hand in his. "But if you step on my toes, I won't forgive you." "I'll do my best," he replied, guiding her onto the dance floor, with the confidence of someone used to every eye in the room following him. As they stepped into the center, the music shifted into a slower, deeper rhythm, as if the band conspired to stretch the moment. Ethan placed one hand on Maya's waist, the other lightly holding her hand, guiding her through the first few steps. She'd never considered herself much of a dancer, but with Ethan, everything felt easier. He moved with such natural grace, as if they'd danced together 100 times. Their closeness was just enough for her to feel his warmth, but still distant enough to retain her composure. "You're a better dancer than I expected," Ethan said, a playful tone in his voice. "You'd be the first to step on my feet." Maya raised an eyebrow, holding on to her confidence. "You underestimated me, Mr. Caldwell. I might be clumsy in hallways, but I know what I'm doing on the dance floor." She tilted her head, looking straight into his eyes. "What about you? Where did you learn to dance like a professional?" Ethan smiled, but there was a flicker of distance in his eyes. "My mother taught me when I was young. She was a ballet dancer but gave it up when she married my father. She used to say dancing is how you understand someone, without words." He paused as if weighing whether to go on. "I learned to please her. But later, I guess it became a way to keep up appearances." Maya was caught off guard by his honesty. She hadn't expected someone like Ethan, billionaire, guarded, powerful, to share something so personal. "So you dance to maintain appearances?" she asked gently. "Or because you enjoy it?" He looked at her, his gaze deepening. "With the right person. I enjoy it." Her cheeks flushed, and she turned her face slightly, pretending to concentrate on her steps. But Ethan didn't let her retreat. "What about you, Maya? Why are you here, aside from being a bridesmaid? You don't strike me as the party type." Maya took a breath, considering her response. "I'm here for Aisha. She's like a sister to me. We grew up together in Brooklyn, dreaming of changing the world. She took the law route, and I took architecture." She paused, recalling the hard years of working part-time to afford college. "I want to design spaces that make people, especially people like me, feel like they belong. But sometimes I wonder if I'm dreaming too big." Ethan tilted his head as if storing each word. "Dreaming big is never wrong. But it's lonely. When no one understands what you're reaching for." She blinked, surprised by how well he understood. "You talk like you felt that." "I have," he said, his voice lower now. "I grew up in a small town. No one expected me to be anything more than a guy who'd take over my father's shop. I built everything from nothing, but the price was learning to keep my distance. From people, from feelings." Maya felt a strange connection, as if they were sharing a secret no one else could comprehend. But the moment was quickly interrupted, when she realized they were still on the dance floor, under the gaze of dozens of eyes. She reminded herself, Ethan Caldwell doesn't belong to your world. He was a billionaire, living in penthouses and glass-walled boardrooms, while she was still paying off student loans. The song ended, and Ethan let her go, but his gaze still held her tightly. "You know, Maya," he said, "I want to see you again. Not in a hallway, not at a bar. Maybe coffee?" Maya inhaled deeply, standing at the edge of something that felt dangerous. She wanted to say yes, but reason pulled her back. They were too different, status, worlds, everything. I'm not sure that's a good idea, she said softly but firmly. Thank you for the dance, Mr. Caldwell. It was wonderful. Ethan smiled, but his eyes revealed he wasn't giving up so easily. Call me Ethan. And I'll wait, Maya. You're worth waiting for. She turned away, stepping off the dance floor, her heart pounding. That dance wasn't just a moment. It was the beginning of something far bigger. And no matter how much she tried to deny it, Maya knew she couldn't keep running forever. A week had passed since Aisha's wedding, yet Maya Johnson still couldn't shake the image of Ethan Caldwell from her mind. That slow dance, those deep ocean blue eyes, and his invitation to see her again haunted her, despite her efforts to bury it all beneath stacks of blueprints and looming deadlines. As an architect at Horizon Architects, Maya spent her days in a sunlit Manhattan office, currently immersed in the Empire Plaza project, an ambitious commercial complex set to redefine New York's skyline. Work was her sanctuary, a space where everything made sense, unlike the emotional chaos Ethan had left behind. On Monday morning, Maya entered Horizon's conference room, clutching a folder of documents and a cup of black coffee. She wore a tailored navy blue suit, her curls tied back neatly, radiating sharp professionalism. The room was already filled. Colleagues chatted in clusters. Project Director Oliver Harris stood at the head of the table, and a few investors in expensive suits sat across from them. Maya smiled at Lena, her close friend and fellow architect from Columbia, then found a seat near the window. She took a breath, ready to present her latest design updates. But when she glanced up to check the attendee list, her heart nearly stopped. Sitting at the head of the table, calm and commanding, with eyes as sharp as ever, was Ethan Caldwell. He wore a charcoal gray suit, the dark blue silk tie accentuating his eyes, looking like a general surveying a battlefield. Ethan Caldwell, tech billionaire, best man at last week's wedding, the man who had danced with her beneath crystal lights, was in her meeting room. Maya blinked, hoping it was just sleep deprivation playing tricks on her. But Ethan's gaze locked onto hers, and a faint smile curved his lips as if he'd been expecting her reaction. Maya, are you okay? Lena whispered, noticing her stunned expression. Maya gave a quick nod, trying to compose herself, but a storm was already building in her mind. What is Ethan doing here? A guest? A sponsor? Or worse, was he directly involved in her project? Oliver stood, clapping his hands for attention. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Today, we're discussing the progress of Empire Plaza, Horizon's most significant project. I want to introduce a new member of our investment team, Mr. Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Ventures. He and his team will serve as strategic partners, ensuring funding and guiding the project's direction. Applause filled the room, but to Maya, the floor beneath her seemed to vanish. Ethan, the lead investor? That meant she'd have to work with him, possibly every day. She forced herself to focus on Oliver's briefing, but Ethan's eyes remained fixed on her, unflinching. It was the look of someone fully aware of their effect, and Maya wasn't sure whether to be furious or terrified. The meeting began, and Maya willed herself to stay professional. She stood, presenting her design, a sleek tower with a curved glass facade, incorporating green spaces and communal areas. I want Empire Plaza to be more than just a symbol of luxury, she said with conviction. It should be a place where everyone, from executives to locals, feels welcome. The rooftop gardens and open plaza will foster a sense of community, not just create a landmark. She finished, and the room nodded in approval. Then Ethan spoke, his voice low and deliberate. Your design is impressive, Ms. Johnson, but I'm concerned about the cost. Rooftop gardens, and sustainable materials could drive the budget up significantly. Do you have a plan to balance vision with practicality? Maya froze. His question wasn't just a technical challenge. It carried a hint of teasing, as though he was testing how she'd react. She took a breath and met his gaze directly. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Caldwell. I've worked with our engineering team to optimize costs without compromising the vision. For example, we use recycled glass and solar energy systems to reduce long-term expenses. I have detailed figures if you'd like to review them. Ethan smiled, a small but meaningful smile. I'd very much like to see them, Ms. Johnson. We can discuss them further after the meeting. Silence settled over the room, and Maya could feel her colleague's eyes shift toward her. She nodded, sitting down as her heart pounded. Ethan wasn't just an investor. He was playing a game, and she wasn't sure she wanted in. The meeting continued for another hour with discussions on budgeting and scheduling. Maya tried to stay focused, but every time Ethan spoke, his deep voice dragged her back to that night, their dance, his hand on her waist, the way he'd looked at her like he was speaking a secret. When the meeting ended, she quickly gathered her materials, determined to slip out before he could catch her. But he was faster. As she stepped into the hallway, Ethan appeared beside her, hands in his pockets, casual but intentional. Ms. Johnson, he called, his voice soft but enough to make her stop. I want to talk more about your design. Dinner? We can go over the details. Maya turned, raising an eyebrow. Dinner? Mr. Caldwell, this is work, not a wedding. I can send the numbers via email. Ethan tilted his head, a spark in his eyes. Email is efficient, but I prefer face-to-face conversation. And call me Ethan, please. I don't bite, unless you spill wine on me again. She laughed, despite trying not to. Something about him, his blend of confidence and humor, made it hard to say no. But she also knew this wasn't just business. He was drawing her into something risky, where the professional and personal lines blurred. All right, Ethan, she said, emphasizing his name. But I picked the restaurant. And don't expect me to wear an evening gown. Deal, he replied, his smile widening. I'll send you the time and place. And Maya, I'm looking forward to this conversation. She nodded, turning away before he could see her cheeks flush. It warmed her face as she stepped outside into the Manhattan sunlight. But she didn't feel relieved. Ethan Caldwell wasn't just an investor. He was a storm. And she was standing in its eye, uncertain whether to run or let herself be swept away. The sun dipped behind the Manhattan skyline, painting the sky a brilliant orange, as Maya Johnson stepped into Mama's Kitchen, a small, cozy restaurant in Harlem. She had chosen this place for her business dinner with Ethan Caldwell, because the fried chicken and cornbread were incredible, and because she wanted to challenge him. With his tailored suits and financial empire, Ethan was likely used to fine dining establishments where appetizers cost more than her weekly rent. Maya, dressed in a beige sweater and fitted jeans, paused at the entrance and took a deep breath. She told herself this was just about work, but her heart wouldn't listen. Inside, Mama's kitchen glowed with warm pendant lights, filled with the aroma of Cajun spices and toasted bread. The wooden walls were adorned with black and white photos of Harlem in the 1970s, a reminder of the community and history that had shaped Maya's childhood. She scanned the room, and then she saw him. Ethan was seated in a corner, wearing a white rolled-up shirt and black slacks, somehow standing out and blending in. He stood when he saw her, offering a smile that made her fight the urge to blush. "Ms. Johnson," he said, pulling out her chair. "Interesting choice. I've been looking forward to this." Maya sat down, arching a brow. "Interesting in a good way? Or are you trying to say You've never been somewhere without silk tablecloths. She tilted her head, playfully challenging him. Ethan chuckled, his deep voice drawing a few curious glances from nearby diners. I've eaten in every kind of restaurant, Maya. But I'll admit, the smell here makes me genuinely hungry. He slid the menu toward her. You choose. I trust your taste. She smiled and ordered 2 fried chicken plates with mashed potatoes, collard greens, and homemade peach tea. When the waiter left, Maya crossed her arms and looked at him squarely. Ethan, we're here to talk about Empire Plaza, right? Do you want detailed numbers on the rooftop gardens? Or the solar system? Ethan tilted his head, his eyes gleaming. We can talk about work. But I want to know more about you, Maya. You said you wanted to design spaces for everyone. What inspired that? His question caught her off guard. She took a sip of tea, considering. I grew up in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood with very little to be proud of. Run-down buildings, neglected parks, overcrowded schools. But my mother, a schoolteacher, always said that spaces could change how people see themselves. I want to build places that make people feel valued, especially kids like me. She paused, realizing she'd shared more than she planned. And you? What gets a billionaire like you out of bed in the morning? Ethan looked at her, his gaze deeper now, as if memorizing her words. Do you want the polished version or the real one? He smiled, but his voice held a trace of bitterness. I started Caldwell Ventures from a ridiculous idea in a college dorm, an app to help small businesses manage their finances. It worked, but the cost was, I rarely had a real life. I work because I'm good at it, but sometimes I wonder if I'm living or just existing. Maya blinked, surprised by his candor. So you're lonely? She asked gently, without judgment. Ethan shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave hers. Maybe. But then I met someone who made me want to slow down. Someone who spilled wine on my suit and danced like she was born to do it. He smiled again, and Maya felt the heat rise in her cheeks. You really know how to make things awkward, she said, trying to stay composed. But I'm not sure I belong in your world, Ethan. I mean, you live in penthouses. I'm still paying off student loans. He leaned in slightly, voice lower. My world doesn't matter, Maya. What matters is how I feel when I'm near you. You make me want to break all my own rules. The air between them thickened, heavy with things unspoken. Maya's heart beat faster, but she didn't want him to see her wavering. Thankfully, the food arrived, breaking the tension. They began eating, and Maya was surprised to see Ethan enjoying the fried chicken. All right, I admit it, he said, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. This place beats any 5-star restaurant I've been to. She laughed, feeling more at ease. Told you. Sometimes, the simplest things are the best. Their conversation drifted away from business, touching on favorite films, songs that gave them chills, and even their most embarrassing failures. Maya shared how she collapsed her architectural model during her first college presentation. Ethan confessed he once fell asleep during a meeting with Japanese investors. By dinner ended, night had entirely fallen, and Harlem glowed beneath the streetlights. Ethan offered to walk her home, and as they stepped outside, the cool air made Maya shiver. He removed his jacket and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. Don't argue, he said softly. Consider it an apology for stressing you out during the meeting. Maya shook her head, but didn't take off the coat. They walked along the sidewalk, and when they reached the front of her apartment building, Ethan stopped, looking at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Maya, he said quietly, I know you think we're from different worlds, but I want to get to know you, not as an investor, a billionaire, or just as Ethan. Will you give me that chance? She drew in a breath, feeling like she was standing at a crossroads. Part of her wanted to say yes, to let herself be swept into the whirlwind that was Ethan Caldwell. But another part, the one that had fought to carve out her place in a world that didn't always welcome her, warned her of the risk. "I need time, Ethan," she said softly but firmly. "But thank you for tonight. It was special." He nodded, no pressure in his expression. "I'll wait, Maya. Good night." He turned and walked away, but before getting into his car, he glanced back, his eyes promising this wouldn't be their last encounter. As Maya entered her apartment and leaned against the door, her heart still thudding, she knew. Dinner hadn't just been business. It had changed everything, and she wasn't sure she was ready for what came next. Morning sunlight streamed through the large windows of the Horizon Architect's office, casting shimmering patches of light across the wooden floor. Maya Johnson sat at her desk, eyes fixed on her computer screen, where a 3D rendering of Empire Plaza slowly came to life. But her mind was elsewhere. The dinner with Ethan Caldwell at Mama's kitchen a few nights ago still lingered. His warm smile, the jacket he draped over her shoulders, and that final question, "Will you give me a chance?" She had said she needed time, but with each passing minute, she felt like she was standing at a crossroads with no way back. She tried to anchor herself in work, where she always found clarity. Empire Plaza wasn't just a project. It was her dream, a chance to prove that a black woman from Brooklyn could shape the Manhattan skyline. But today, the office felt heavier. She noticed the subtle glances from a few colleagues, the hushed murmurs that stopped as she walked by. Maya frowned, wondering if she was imagining things. "Maya, got a minute?" Lena, her colleague and close friend, appeared by her desk, voice low but urgent. With her blonde hair tied in a high ponytail and round glasses perched on her nose, Lena never beat around the bush. "There's something you need to know." Maya nodded, pushing back her chair. They stepped into the hallway, which was quieter. "What is it?" she asked, a creeping unease rising in her chest. Lena crossed her arms, glancing around to ensure no one could hear. "Have you heard the rumors? About you and Ethan Caldwell. People in the office say you've been favored on the project because of how close you and he got after that dinner." Maya froze as if someone had thrown cold water over her. "Close? What's that supposed to mean? It was a business dinner." Her voice rose slightly, and she forced herself to take a breath. "Who's saying this?" Lena shrugged, clearly uncomfortable. "No one's saying it directly, but Richard started it. He claimed that in last week's meeting, Ethan paid too much attention to your input, and that dinner, well, it didn't help. Now people are questioning whether you were chosen for the lead role in Empire Plaza because of your talent, or because of him." Richard. Maya clenched her jaw. Richard Bennett, a senior architect, always pretended to be friendly, but never hid his competitiveness. He had wanted to lead Empire Plaza, but Oliver, the director, had chosen Maya for her unique vision. Now it seemed Richard was using rumors to undermine her. "This is ridiculous," Maya said, her voice trembling with anger. "I've worked harder than anyone here. I don't need to be favored to prove myself." "I know that," Lena said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "But you also know how people think. A black woman rising fast, she gets scrutinized twice as hard. Just be careful, okay?" Maya nodded, but inside, a storm was raging. She returned to her desk and tried to focus, but Lena's words echoed. When lunchtime came, she decided she wouldn't let this fester. She needed to confront it. She found Richard in the break room, chatting with a few colleagues. The atmosphere shifted the moment she walked in, eyes turned toward her. "Richard, I need a word," Maya said, calm but ice-edged. Richard, with his salt and pepper hair and smug expression, raised an eyebrow. "I don't know what you mean, Maya." I'm just asking fair questions. When a major investor like Caldwell takes a special interest in one architect, people are bound to be curious. Don't you think? Maya clenched her fists, steadying her voice. My work is transparent. I was chosen for Empire Plaza because of my design, not for any special attention. If you have a problem with that, take it up with Oliver, not the office gossip circuit. Richard shrugged, but the smirk never left his face. I'm only saying what others are thinking, Maya. Nothing personal. She turned away before she said something she'd regret, but her anger simmered under the surface. Back at her desk, a message popped up on her screen. It was from Ethan. Meeting at 3 p.m. today. I'd like to hear more about your cost optimization plan. She stared at the screen, feeling like things were spinning out of control. That afternoon's meeting was a test. Ethan, as always, was sharp and professional, probing every angle of the project. But each time he looked at her, Maya could feel Richard's eyes and a few others watching, waiting for proof to confirm their whispers. She presented her ideas, but her voice lacked its usual conviction. The weight of judgment was suffocating. When the meeting ended, Ethan approached her, voice low. Maya, is something wrong? You don't seem like yourself. She shook her head, trying to keep her expression neutral. Nothing, Ethan. Just a long day. I'll send you the report later. She walked out before he could say more, but she knew he wasn't convinced. That night, Maya called Aisha. She needed someone who'd understand. Curled on her couch, she poured it all out, about the rumors, Richard, and the crushing pressure. Aisha, fresh from her honeymoon, sighed into the phone. Maya, listen. You're one of the most talented people I know. Guys like Richard are just bitter because you outperformed them. But as for Ethan, I saw how he looked at you at the wedding. If there's something real there, don't let a bunch of jealous whispers stop you. I don't know, Aisha, Maya murmured, rubbing her temples. Ethan, he's different. But his world is too big, too complicated. And now, with these rumors, it feels like everything I do is under attack. Then face it, Aisha said firmly. You're not someone who runs away, Maya. If you like him, really like him, explore it. If not, walk away. But don't let anyone else decide for you. After hanging up, Maya looked out the window. The Manhattan lights sparkled like stars, but none eased her chest's tightness. Aisha was right, but when she thought of Ethan, his eyes, his voice, the way he made her feel like the center of the world, Maya realized something terrifying. She was falling for him, and she wasn't sure she could stop. But to protect her name, her dream, and everything she'd fought for, she made the only decision she could. She had to put distance between herself and Ethan Caldwell. The sun had set behind Manhattan's towering skyline, leaving the sky a deep violet, glimmering with the city's lights. Maya Johnson stood before a high-rise in the Upper East Side, her heart pounding. She had received a message from Ethan Caldwell that morning. Maya, we need to talk. Not about work. 7 p.m., my place. She had meant to say no, to keep her promise to herself about staying away from him, to protect her reputation, her focus, and the Empire Plaza project. But something in the tone of that message, not a command, but a sincere invitation, made it impossible to ignore. Now, she was wearing a simple black dress and a wool coat, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. The elevator carried her to the penthouse, and as the doors opened, she stepped into a vast, elegant space. Luxurious, yet understated. Dark wooden floors, floor-to-ceiling glass walls offering a breathtaking view of Manhattan, and a sleek gray leather sofa in the center of the room. Ethan stood near the window, holding a glass of wine, his gaze distant, fixed on the city. He wore a white rolled-up shirt and tailored slacks, more relaxed than his usual office suits, yet still exuding power. When he heard her footsteps, he turned, and his sharp blue eyes lit up. "Maya," he said, his voice deep and warm, setting the glass down. "Thank you for coming." She crossed her arms, trying to keep her tone steady. "I'm here, Ethan. You said you needed to talk. About what?" She kept her voice firm, using it as a shield against the pull he seemed to have over her. Ethan stepped closer, but not too close, maintaining just enough space so she wouldn't feel cornered. "About us. About what's happening between us, even if you're trying to deny it." He paused, looking her straight in the eyes. "I know about the rumors at the office. I know they're making things difficult for you. And I know you're trying to put distance between us. But I need you to hear me out." Maya's throat tightened. She'd prepared herself to talk about logistics, deadlines, budgets. Not this. "Ethan, I don't know what you've heard, but those rumors, they're tearing everything apart. People think I only got attention because of you, not my work. I can't let that destroy everything I've built." Ethan nodded, his gaze never wavering. "I understand, and I'm sorry if my presence made things worse. Maya." He took a breath. "I can't stop thinking about you. Since the moment you ran into me in that hallway, since that dance, since dinner in Harlem, you've changed everything." Her heart beat faster. "Changed what, Ethan? You're a billionaire. You live in a world I only ever see in magazines. We don't belong in the same place. And I don't want to be part of some game." He stepped closer, his voice lower, more intense. "This isn't a game, Maya. I'm not the kind of man who chases feelings. I've built my entire life around control of my company, decisions, and emotions. But with you..." He paused as if searching for the right words. "You make me want to let go. And that terrifies me. But I can't walk away." Maya's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to fall into those eyes, into that warmth. But the fear of losing her reputation, career, and even her sense of self held her back. "Ethan, you don't understand," she whispered. "I'm a black woman in a ruthless industry. Every eye is watching, waiting for me to slip. If I let myself fall into this, it doesn't work out. I could lose everything." He looked at her, not with pity, but with deep empathy. "I may never fully understand what you face, but I see your strength. You're not just a brilliant architect. You make me want to improve." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his heated promise. "It'd be easy. But I promise I'll stand by you if you let me." Her heart thundered in her chest. The space between them pulsed with all the unspoken tension. Then, gently, Ethan lifted a hand to her cheek, touching her as if he feared she might disappear. And then, he kissed her. It wasn't rushed or forceful. It was slow, deliberate, filled with everything he hadn't said. A quiet storm, both tender and intense. It wasn't like any kiss she'd ever known. It felt like he was offering her his entire world. Maya melted into him. Her hand gripped his shirt, pulling him closer as time seemed to stop. At that moment, there were no rumors, deadlines, or fear, just the two. Something that felt too big to define. But reality came crashing back like a wave. She pulled away suddenly, breath shaky, her eyes wide with panic. "No, Ethan, I can't." He stood still, pain flickering in his eyes, but no surprise. "Why, Maya? Please give me one fundamental reason." She stepped back, her hands trembling. "Because of everything. The job, what people will say, the fact that I don't even know if I can trust this." She drew in a breath. trying to keep her voice from breaking. I need time, Ethan. I need to understand what this even is. He nodded slowly, but his eyes said he wasn't giving up. All right, Maya. I'll give you time. But I won't walk away. You're worth waiting for. She turned quickly, walking to the elevator, her heart racing. As the doors closed behind her, she leaned against the wall, feeling like she'd just escaped a storm. But deep down, she knew she hadn't wanted to run. That kiss had changed everything, and no matter how hard she tried to fight it, Maya knew one thing with frightening certainty. Ethan Caldwell had left a mark on her heart, one she couldn't erase. The sky over Manhattan was gray and heavy, clouds sagging low like a mirror to Maya Johnson's mood as she walked into the Horizon Architect's office on a Tuesday morning. The kiss with Ethan Caldwell, 3 nights earlier at his penthouse, still burned in her memory, but she had resolved to bury it beneath blueprints and the unrelenting deadlines of the Empire Plaza project. She wore a sleek black pantsuit, her natural curls pulled into a high bun, polished and professional. But inside, she was a storm. She kept telling herself that putting distance between her and Ethan was the only way to protect her reputation, her focus, and the dream she had built. Especially now, when rumors about them still circled quietly through the office. Maya sat at her desk, opened her laptop, and resumed working on the rooftop garden design for Empire Plaza. But every time she tried to concentrate, Ethan's image intruded. His eyes, blue and full of emotion, the way his hand had touched her cheek. She inhaled sharply, trying to push it away. You can't get caught up in him, she reminded herself. Not when everyone is watching, waiting for you to make a mistake. Richard Bennett, the senior architect, hadn't stopped with the passive-aggressive comments. And although Oliver, the project director, had assured her that no one questioned her abilities, Maya still felt the weight of unspoken doubts. Maya, are you okay? Lena, her colleague and friend, stopped by with a coffee. You look like you just ran a marathon. Maya forced a weak smile and shook her head. Just busy. Empire Plaza is hitting a critical phase. She didn't mention Ethan, but Lena, sharp as ever, tilted her head knowingly. If you need to talk, Lena said softly, I'm here. Then she returned to her desk, leaving Maya with her tangled thoughts. When the project meeting began at noon, Maya braced herself. Ethan entered the conference room in a charcoal gray suit, his eyes sweeping the space. When their eyes met, Maya's heart skipped, but she quickly looked down at her notes, pretending to be engrossed. Ethan was all business, discussing budgets and timelines with Oliver and the investors. But Maya noticed he deliberately avoided addressing her directly, as if respecting the boundary she had drawn. After the meeting, Maya packed up quickly, trying to leave before he could speak to her, but he beat her to it. Ms. Johnson, he said gently, not commanding, just present. May I have a moment? She froze and turned back slowly with a mask of composure. If it's about the project, I'll email you, Mr. Caldwell. She emphasized his last name like a wall between them. Ethan's eyes flickered with hurt, but he nodded. All right, I'll look out for your email. He turned and walked away. And Maya felt something twist inside her. She knew she was hurting him, but she didn't see another way. That evening, she stayed late at the office, reviewing drafts to avoid going home, where thoughts of Ethan would wait in every quiet corner. But as she stepped out of the elevator, she overheard a voice in the hallway. It was Ethan. I know, James. The board's getting impatient, but I need more time. Empire Plaza is a significant investment, and I'm not distracted. I still have control. Her breath caught. She hid behind the wall, her pulse quickening. James, She recognized the name, a board member at Caldwell Ventures, and the word distracted sent a pang of guilt through her. Was Ethan under pressure because of her? She shook her head. It's not your fault, she told herself, but the weight in her chest wouldn't go away. That weekend, Maya visited Aisha's new apartment in Brooklyn. Curled on the couch with ginger tea, she told her best friend everything. The kiss, the rumors, the silence since. Aisha listened carefully, then took her hand. Maya, I get why you're scared. You fought so hard for where you are. But avoiding Ethan isn't the answer. You can't live your life scared of what people think. And if you like him, and I know you do, then face it. Maya stared out the window at the glowing street lamps. I don't know, Aisha. He makes me feel like I could be anything. But then I remember how different we are. And if I let myself fall into this, what happens when it all falls apart? Aisha smiled gently. No one knows what's going to happen. But you can't live in what-ifs. Give yourself a chance, even just one small step. Later, as Maya walked back through the cool Brooklyn night, Aisha's words echoed in her mind. She felt like she was standing in a line between two worlds. She wanted to believe that she and Ethan could rise above the noise and judgment. She took out her phone, fingers hovering over his name. But then, she put it away. Instead, she buried herself in work, hoping that time would bring clarity. But fate had other plans. The following Monday, Maya received an email from Oliver. Subject: Meeting request. Ethan Caldwell has requested a private meeting with you to discuss integrating public space at Empire Plaza. Let me know your availability. Maya stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She knew this wasn't just about work. Ethan was trying to reach her again, and she wasn't sure she had the strength to turn him away a second time. A soft drizzle fell over the streets of Manhattan, turning the pavement into shimmering trails beneath the neon lights. Maya Johnson sat in her small Brooklyn apartment, her eyes fixed on the laptop screen where the Empire Plaza renderings awaited her attention. But her mind was elsewhere. The kiss with Ethan Caldwell at his penthouse still lived vividly in her memory, along with the office gossip and her decision to pull away. She had tried to keep her distance, short replies in meetings, emails instead of face-to-face. But her heart skipped a beat each time his name appeared on her screen. Deep down, she wondered if she was running away from something that mattered. That morning, Maya received an email from Oliver, the project director, calling for an urgent meeting that afternoon. Subject: A change in the Empire Plaza Investment Group. Her brows furrowed, anxiety creeping in. Ethan had requested a one-on-one meeting the week prior, which she dodged by submitting her updates through a report. Was he forcing her to face him? She shook her head. It's just business. Stay professional. The conference room was cast in the soft gray light of a rainy day at the Horizon office. Maya gripped her pen tightly beside Lena, masking the storm inside her. Ethan entered, dressed in a dark navy suit, scanning the room until his gaze briefly met hers. Just 1 second, but it felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Oliver stood up and clapped to get everyone's attention. Thank you all for gathering on such short notice. We have an important announcement regarding Empire Plaza. Ethan stepped forward, calm, composed, but unmistakably resolute. Caldwell Ventures will be stepping down as the lead investor of Empire Plaza. I've transferred all my shares to a trusted partner, Sterling Investment Group, to ensure the project continues without disruption. This decision takes effect immediately. Silence dropped like a stone across the room. Maya felt her heart stop. She stared at Ethan, searching his face for an explanation. But his eyes swept past her without pause, offering nothing. Oliver, clearly stunned, spoke up. Ethan, this is a significant shift. Can you share why? Ethan nodded, his voice steady but firm. This is the best decision for the project. And me. Sterling has the experience and resources to support Empire Plaza, and I trust the Horizon team, especially Ms. Johnson, to see it through to success. He looked at Maya as he said that last part, and a swell of emotion rose in her chest. The meeting ended under a heavy cloud. Maya packed her notes, her mind spinning. Ethan pulled out of the project? Why? She knew he wasn't impulsive. Did he do this because of me? Because of the walls I put up? She headed toward her desk, but Lena caught her arm. Maya, what is going on? Ethan doesn't walk away from a multi-million-dollar project without a reason. I don't know, Maya muttered. But deep inside, she did. And there was only one way to get the truth. That night, Maya stood before Ethan's high-rise, rain soaking her hair and coat. She had sent a message, just one line. I need to see you, now. The elevator lifted her to the penthouse. When the doors opened, Ethan was already there, shirt sleeves rolled up, emotion heavy in his eyes. Maya, he said, voice husky, I knew you'd come. She stepped inside, arms crossed, her voice trembling with anger and confusion. Ethan, what are you doing? Pulling out of Empire Plaza? You can't just walk away like that. This project matters. To you, to me, to everyone. Ethan looked at her, unwavering. I'm not walking away, Maya. I did this for you. He stepped closer, voice low but sincere. I know the rumors have been hurting you. I know my presence, as an investor, only made it worse. I didn't want you to choose between your career and us. So, I removed the barrier. Maya blinked, the ground beneath her seeming to shift. For me? Ethan, you can't decide this big because of a kiss. Do you even understand the consequences? Your board, your reputation. I don't care about the board, he cut in, voice rising, raw. I care about you. Maya, I love you. I've loved you since you bumped into me in that hallway. Flowers all over the floor. I tried to stay away and stay in control, but I couldn't. And if stepping back from this project is what it takes for you to feel free, to give us a chance, then I'd do it 1,000 times over. She stood frozen, breath shaky. He loved her. The words echoed in her mind, sweet, terrifying. She wanted to believe him, to fall into his arms. But fear still gripped her. Fear of what people would say. Fear of losing herself in his world. Ethan, she whispered, her voice cracking. I don't know what to do. I have feelings for you too, but everything is so complicated. I need time. Ethan nodded, pain flickering across his face, but his gaze was steady. I'll give you time, Maya, but I need you to know, I'm serious. I didn't do this to pressure you. I did it because I believe in us. He stepped closer, but didn't touch her. When you're ready, I'll be here. She looked at him, heart heavy. She wanted to speak, to bridge the space between them, but her mind pulled her back. Thank you, Ethan, she murmured, then turned and stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, she leaned against the wall, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. Ethan's decision had shattered the professional walls between them. But now, Maya stood at the edge of a personal choice she could no longer ignore. The night in Brooklyn was quiet, broken only by the occasional rush of cars and the glimmer of streetlights reflecting on rain-slick sidewalks. Maya Johnson sat curled up on her sofa, clutching a cup of ginger tea gone cold. Her gaze was distant, her mind replaying every detail of Ethan Caldwell, his confession of love, his decision to step away from Empire Plaza, and the hopeful, wounded look in his eyes as she left his penthouse. She had asked for time, and now 3 days had passed. Each moment only brought her closer to one undeniable truth. She loved him, and running away was hurting them both. She rose from the couch and walked toward the window, staring at the familiar streets where she grew up. Brooklyn wasn't just her home. It had forged her. It taught her how to endure judgment and fight for her place in a world that doubted her. But nothing had prepared her for this, for love. Aisha had been right. She couldn't live with what if. She would always wonder what could have been if she hadn't given Ethan a chance. Maya picked up her phone, scrolled through her contacts, then paused. No texts, no calls. She needed to see him, in person. She grabbed a sweater, pulled a hood over her head to shield herself from the drizzle, and hailed a cab to Manhattan. When she stood again in front of Ethan's building, her heart pounded like it was about to burst. The doorman recognized her from before and gave a silent nod as she entered the elevator. When the doors opened at the penthouse, Ethan stood in the living room, a few buttons on his white shirt undone, a folder of documents in his hand. He looked up, and his eyes lit up the moment he saw her. "Maya," he said, voice husky, as if afraid he was dreaming. She stepped inside, gripping the strap of her bag, her voice trembling but clear. "Ethan, I can't keep running. I've thought about you, us, and everything that could go wrong. But there's something I can't deny anymore. I don't want to go another day without knowing where this could lead." She inhaled deeply, locking eyes with him. "I love you, Ethan, and if you still want this, I'm ready to try." Ethan stood frozen for a second, processing her words. Then he crossed the room in a heartbeat, pulling her into his arms. He held her tight, his breath warm against her hair. "Maya," he whispered, voice breaking. "I've never wanted anything more. I swear, you'll never regret this." She rested her head on his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat, mirroring her own. And in that quiet moment, every fear, every whisper, every difference between them melted away. They stood together beneath the dim glow of the penthouse lights, and Maya finally felt like she had come home. They moved to the sofa, hands still entwined. Ethan gently stroked her fingers, his gaze soft but steady. "I know it won't be easy," he said. "I know we'll face stares and whispers, and maybe worse. But I promise to stand beside you, not just as a lover, but as a partner. We'll get through it, together." Maya smiled, nodding. "And I won't pretend I'll make it easy either. I'm stubborn, and I won't let you control everything because you're a billionaire." She raised an eyebrow playfully. Ethan laughed, leaning in to press a gentle kiss to her forehead. "I look forward to it," he whispered. The kiss was soft, but it carried weight. A vow is unspoken. A few days later, the news of their relationship rippled through Horizon Architects. Maya felt the curious stares, but she was no longer afraid. She focused on Empire Plaza, working closely with the team to finalize the rooftop garden design, and she was more confident than ever. Ethan, though no longer an investor, supported them from afar, introducing her to new partners but never overstepping. He gave her space where it mattered most, in her work. That weekend, Aisha and Kevin, the groom from the wedding, hosted a small celebration at their apartment in Brooklyn to honor Maya and Ethan. Warm lights, soft jazz, and the scent of home-cooked food filled the space with joy. Aisha pulled Maya into a hug and whispered, "I told you, you deserve this." Kevin clapped Ethan on the back, grinning. "Never thought a bridesmaid would knock you out, huh?" Ethan chuckled, pulling Maya close. "She's not just a bridesmaid," he said, his voice low and full of certainty as he looked at her. "She's everything." That night, As glasses clinked in celebration and laughter filled the room, Maya looked at Ethan and knew the road ahead wouldn't be smooth, but they would walk it together. What they had wasn't just love. It was commitment, a promise to build something real, lasting, no matter the cost. 6 months had passed since Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell officially became a couple, and Manhattan had quietly become the stage for their love story. The pressures of Horizon Architects consumed their days, but their nights belonged to each other, filled with dreams, laughter, and quiet fears. Their love had blossomed, but whispers of doubt still echoed in the business world. Some questioned how a young Brooklyn architect could be a billionaire like Ethan Caldwell. But every time Maya faltered, Ethan held her hand, reminding her that what they had was more substantial than any rumor. One Friday evening, Ethan sent her a message. "Wear something comfortable. I'll pick you up at 7. Don't ask. Trust me." Maya, now used to his surprises, smiled with a mix of excitement and curiosity. She chose a form-fitting emerald silk dress and a pair of flat shoes. When Ethan arrived in a sleek black car, dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored slacks, his mysterious smile made her heart flutter. "Where are we going, Mr. Caldwell?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "To somewhere extraordinary," he replied, taking her hand as she stepped into the car. "You'll love it, I promise." They drove through Manhattan's glittering streets until they reached a tall building near Central Park. The elevator took them to the rooftop. When the doors opened, Maya gasped. The rooftop had been transformed into a dreamlike garden in the sky. String lights twinkled overhead, wrapped around wooden beams. A small table draped in white linen stood under a canopy of stars, flanked by glowing candles and delicate crystalware. A live string quartet played soft, romantic melodies in the corner. The skyline glittered beyond them, with Central Park's silhouette glowing gently below. "Ethan, what is this?" Maya whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. She turned to him, her eyes wide. He took her hand and led her to the table, pulling her chair. He said, "I wanted tonight to be just about us, sitting across from her. No offices, no headlines, just you and me." Dinner unfolded like a symphony of flavors. Seared salmon with passion fruit glaze, a crisp green salad, and a chocolate mousse that melted on the tongue. They laughed, they talked. Maya shared her vision for a community cultural center in Harlem, a project she was pushing hard to get approved. Ethan listened with admiration shining in his eyes. "You'll make it happen," he said. "I've never met anyone so driven." When dessert was served, Ethan stood slowly. His tone shifted, his eyes growing more serious. He stepped beside her and dropped to one knee. Maya's breath caught in her throat. From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small velvet box. Inside sat a delicate, interwoven silver ring crowned with a modest but radiant diamond. "Maya Johnson," he began, his voice deep and unsteady. "I never imagined I'd be here, on one knee, asking someone to stay by my side forever. But then you showed up, bumping into me in a hallway, with a bouquet falling all over the floor, and you changed everything." Tears welled in Maya's eyes. She covered her mouth, speechless. "I know we've faced challenges," Ethan continued, taking her hand. "The stares, the whispers, the times you felt like you didn't belong in my world. But the truth is, you are my world. You make me want to live, not just exist. I want to wake up next to you, argue about designs, laugh over dinner in tiny cafes, and build dreams with you." He looked up at her, eyes shimmering. "Maya, will you marry me?" Tears spilled down her cheeks, tears of joy. She looked into his eyes and saw raw honesty and something else. Fear. Fear that she might say no. But she didn't need to think. Yes, Ethan, she said, her voice breaking. Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. His smile was the brightest she had ever seen. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then rose and embraced her tightly. The quartet shifted into a joyful melody like the whole world had joined in their celebration. He kissed her, a kiss deep and tender, full of promise. And in that moment, every doubt, every shadow melted away. They weren't just a couple, they were a team, ready to face whatever came next. Later, sitting hand in hand under the canopy of stars, Maya glanced at her ring, the diamond glowing softly in the candlelight. You picked this because it's simple, didn't you? She teased. Not the flashy kind I'd expect a billionaire to choose. Ethan chuckled, gently stroking her hand. I know you. You don't need something loud to shine. I wanted something like you. Elegant, strong, radiant without needing to boast. She laughed, leaning her head on his shoulder. You do know how to say the right things, Mr. Caldwell. But deep down, she knew. He meant every word. The ring, the dinner. This moment was Ethan, the man who had once walked away from a multi-million-dollar project to give her space. They stayed on that rooftop late into the night while Manhattan blurred behind a veil of mist. Ethan spoke of plans to travel to Italy once Empire Plaza wrapped up to explore the ancient architecture she'd always dreamed of. Maya shared her hopes for the Harlem Center, and Ethan vowed to help her secure funding. Their future would not be without trials, social scrutiny, career pressures, and the weight of their respective worlds. But with Ethan by her side, Maya felt ready to face it all. As they descended the building, hand in hand, Maya looked at Ethan, and for the first time, she didn't just see love, she saw a future, a shared journey. One, they would walk together, brick by brick, dream by dream. The sky over Long Island was a brilliant, cloudless blue, as if the universe was smiling upon Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell on their wedding day. The oceanfront estate gleamed under the golden sun, filled with the soft scent of lavender. White chairs lined the manicured lawn, facing the shimmering Atlantic, and a rose-petal-strewn aisle led to an altar draped in ivory silk and hanging lanterns. Inside the bridal suite, Maya stood in front of a mirror, her heart pounding with joy, and just a hint of nerves. Her dress was a masterpiece, ivory silk that hugged her silhouette, with delicate lace detailing across the bodice, and a long veil dancing in the breeze. Her curls were gathered into an elegant bun, adorned with tiny pearls. Behind her, Aisha, maid of honor and lifelong best friend, adjusted the veil with a glowing smile. Maya, she whispered, eyes shining. You look like a queen. Ethan's going to faint when he sees you. Maya laughed, though her hands trembled slightly as she held her bouquet of white carnations. I hope I don't trip walking down the aisle. You know how clumsy I am. She winked, but deep down, she knew. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a declaration, a promise that she and Ethan would face whatever came, together. The door opened, and her mother, Grace, stepped in, wearing a sapphire blue gown. Her eyes welled with pride and tenderness. My daughter, she whispered, wrapping Maya in a warm embrace. I never thought I'd see you this happy. Ethan's a good man. You two, you're going to do something extraordinary. Maya nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you, Mom, she murmured. I'm here today because of you. Grace, who had raised her through hardship in Brooklyn, was the foundation of her strength, the reason she never gave up. Outside, guests had begun to gather. Laughter and soft conversation blended with the sound of crashing waves. Ethan stood at the altar, dressed in a tailored black suit and a deep blue silk tie that made his eyes look impossibly blue. He appeared composed, but Kevin, his best man, leaned in and teased, "You look like you're about to pass out, buddy." Ethan chuckled, but his eyes never left the aisle, waiting for Maya. As the violin swelled with the bridal melody, the crowd fell silent. Maya emerged, her arm linked with her mother's. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. She was breathtaking, more than he had ever dreamed. Not just because of the dress or the smile, but because of the light she carried, the strength, the grace, the woman he loved. Their eyes locked, and Maya's nerves melted away. She saw only Ethan, the man who once walked away from $1 million project to give her freedom. The man who had stood beside her through every whisper, every storm. She reached the altar, and Grace gently placed Maya's hand into Ethan's. He leaned in and whispered, "You're beyond beautiful, Maya." She smiled, cheeks flushed. "You're not too bad yourself, Mr. Caldwell." The officiant, a longtime friend of Maya's family, began the ceremony with a gentle voice. He said, "We gather today to witness the love of Maya Johnson and Ethan Caldwell. They found each other amidst life's chaos, and their love proves that no barrier is too great." Then came the vows. Ethan went first, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "Maya, I never believed in fate, until you bumped into me that day in the hotel hallway, flowers everywhere." The guests laughed softly. "You taught me how to live, love, and dream bigger. I promise to stand beside you, to challenge you, and to love you, every day, no matter what comes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, eyes never leaving hers. Maya took a breath, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Ethan, you made me believe that love can truly change everything. You see me, not just as an architect, but as a woman with dreams and fears. I promise to challenge you, laugh with you, and hold your hand through every trial." Her hand trembled slightly as she slid the ring onto his finger. The officiant smiled warmly. "By my power, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Ethan, you may kiss the bride." Ethan pulled Maya into his arms and kissed her, a kiss deep, sincere, full of everything they'd survived to reach this moment. The crowd erupted in cheers. Maya laughed through happy tears, resting her head against his chest, feeling the world celebrate with them. The reception afterward was filled with joy. Under the moonlit sky, Maya and Ethan shared their first dance, slow, tender, surrounded by glowing lanterns and the rhythm of waves nearby. Aisha and Kevin joined in, followed by Lena and colleagues from Horizon. The project director, Oliver, raised a glass and toasted the Empire Plaza nearing completion, many thanks to Maya's vision. Even Richard, the man who once fueled rumors, was there, his gaze now softened with respect, no longer rivalry. Later that night, Maya and Ethan stood on a private balcony, looking out over the ocean. Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind and whispered, "Thank you for saying yes, Maya." She turned and kissed him gently. "Thank you for never giving up, Ethan." They spoke of their next chapter. After their honeymoon in Italy, they would begin building the Harlem Cultural Center Maya had dreamed of. With funding from Ethan's foundation, it wouldn't just be a gift to the community, but a legacy, proof that love could create real change. Under the moonlight, they knew the future would hold challenges, but side by side, they could build anything.